worked on these issues, I think, probably for longer than I have. And unfortunately, he's thinking of leaving us at the end of the year. And he's on a mission, and I am too, to make sure that a number of items on his agenda list get completed. And this could be part of his legacy, and I think part of the legacy of this committee. So thank you very much for all the work and the effort that you put into this. And my hope is that we'll find by the end of this year we'll have been for a very, very, very good purpose.
Yep.
Senator Voinovich.
Thank you, Senator Carper. I smiled because I can still remember when Senator Jeffers was chairman of this committee, and we were talking about the same thing 8 years ago. I just like to just start out right now with just a big picture thing. If you look at what we've done in health, we've looked in financial regulations, we're talking about climate change, this air rule, the care rule, issue of taxation. There is more uncertainty today in this country than I have ever seen in my entire life. There was a recent article, Newsweek by Fareed Zakaria, who talked about the fact that we are sitting on about $2 trillion. Businesses are not doing anything because they just don't know where we're going. And so they're kind of sitting back and trying to figure out where are we going. So I think that's, you know, kind of a backdrop. The other is that I heard Senator Cardin's statement about all of the health problems that we have. From my side, you'll be hearing, you know, a lot about what the costs are for the companies and the people and so on and so forth. The problem is that in terms of the cost benefit, we don't get into that because according to what I know, Ms. McCarthy doesn't have to consider that part of it. She's got to consider the health part of it. And when you do the water rule, you have cost-benefit analysis, you have peer review, you have alternative regulations, et cetera. So we've never got there, and frankly, when I first came here the first couple of years, I tried to get cost-benefit put in the air and just got blasted out. Just a terrible thing, we should never do it, and so forth. But that's a fundamental thing that I think we all need to talk about one of these days, because that's what we're running into. We try to
when we get into our questions, one of the questions I'll be asking of the administrators is just that cost and benefit.
So I'd like to say that I'm glad that you're calling this today. I'm glad that Chris Korleski, head of Ohio's Department of Environmental Protection, is one of the witnesses, and I'm anxious to hear everyone's thoughts about the EPA's proposed transport rule. As the chairman knows, I've long sought a national policy that implements a comprehensive air quality strategy that helps attain our nation's national ambient air quality standards and streamlines Clean Air Act requirements. And I've been working. The first thing I did when I became governor was to get Ohio to comply with the ambient air standards, because I knew its impact when I was mayor, and we needed to get on with this because it had real, you know, not only health benefits, but it also had economic benefits. Okay. I did sponsor the Clear Skies Act, and the chairman and I know we spent a lot of time on it. When the court overturned EPA's first interstate transport rule, CARE, and the Mercury rule, it left us with no comprehensive or cost-effective policy to reduce emissions or untangle the complicated web of overlapping and redundant regulations affecting power plants. And Senator Enroth said that's what we both of us feared, and it happened. EPA's transport rule does not allay these concerns. In fact, the proposal presents a stringent and inflexible regulatory regime that may be unworkable as a practical matter. If the agency finalizes its rule on schedule, spring of 2011, it would allow for a little more than 6 months for compliance. Then a mere 2 years later, a second phase of caps would kick in, reducing SO2 and NOx by 71% and 52% respectively. These timeframes do not recognize the realities associated with designing, permitting, and installing equipment to meet the mandates. And because the proposal virtually eliminates emission trading, the regulatory hurdles will be all that much greater. Adding to the challenge, EPA is proposing to revise the emission caps as new NACs are promulgated. This means that the electric sector will face ever-changing compliance hurdles that will provide little clarity for business planning. When the added uncertainty of future greenhouse gas controls, the potential regulation of coal ash as a hazardous waste, the electric power industry has faced an uncertain and chaotic situation that I believe is incumbent upon Congress to fix. And the chart behind me is an indication of what they're going to be confronted. 2008 over here to, what is it, Todd? 2017. This is what I'm looking at if I'm running a utility company. Just think about this. And Senator Carper, if we could work something out, we could eliminate all of this stuff, or most of it, so that people know where they're going, what am I going to have to do, how much am I going to invest, what impact am I going to have, and so forth.
Is that chart?
So the national, and this fear that I've got is not, it's not unfounded. A 2009 National Energy Technology Laboratory analysis titled GDP Impacts of Energy Costs found that if 25% of the nation's coal-generating capacity is replaced with natural gas and renewables, electricity prices would increase by 25%, GDP would decrease by 2.6%, and the economy would shed nearly 3 million jobs. And I'd like to submit a copy of that report for the record.
Without objection.
Then you compare this to a recent Edison Electric Institute analysis that depicts the cumulative effect of pending EPA rules on the electric power sector. This analysis shows that the agency's actions have the potential to shutter over 120,000 megawatts of coal-fired generation by 2015. This is over 38% of our country's coal fleet, and I'd like to submit a copy of that report for the record.
Without objection.
Indeed, a major service provider in Ohio, AEP, projects that pending EPA regulations would cause them to shutter 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts, 20 to 30% of their coal-fired capacity in their near eastern service area in the 2014 to 2015 timeframe. I have detailed testimony from AEP, and I would like to have that submitted for the record.
Without objection.
Okay. We can alleviate these concerns by properly coordinating the compliance obligations for the electric power sector while giving the industry a predictable compliance roadmap over the next 10 to 20 years. This would promote efficiency, allow companies to make strategic area investments to reduce emissions and provide electric reliability. For these reasons, a three-peak strategy continues to make sense, and I'm appreciative of the Carper-Alexander legislation. And as you know, we're trying to work together to see if we can't get something done in that arena. I would love to do it because maybe you know, we wouldn't be here 5 years from now talking about the same subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would be a good goal to work toward. And you and I put a lot of time and energy into this. I know so has a former